And then we just had that 0-day fairly recently, the Chrome 0-day. Just earlier this year.
Wasn't tracking that,
okay.
But my sense is that we're discovering and repeating more 0 days per year now than ever before. The question is whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because of course if adversaries are being forced to use 0 days in the wild, there comes with a huge cost in it.
Yeah.
So that suggests that the sort of standard...
what you mean, just setting them up, it's quite complicated.
Well, yeah, finding that developing the exploits is complicated now.
Yeah.
It's not simple. You know, that IS path reversal bug that I spoke about. Just you know, you could do it with a telnet prompt. You could type it out by hand. Now it's like multiple chain vulnerabilities just to extract the tiniest aspect of an advantage from an endpoint. They're expensive, they're slow to develop, their applications are very limited, like very specific to, you know, one kind of OS running on one set of hardware. So you don't deploy a 0 day for fun.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. It's a nation. It's a country.
It's a very specific strategic call.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're finding and reporting more of them might actually suggest that the bar has been raised. So we might get that.
So, I mean, the thing that I offer here is that specifically with companies who are rolling out some kind of product or vendors that are doing something, that people always say that, well, the wisdom that I hear is that people say you should always think of security earlier rather than later. Yeah, it should be thought about from the get-go. So just if you think of that, I mean, knowing what you know now, and if you then had to go back, say, to 2005, possibly earlier, I mean, what would you have said then that people could start doing to better protect themselves back then? I mean, if you know, if it's up to you, I mean, what I mean, put it another way, I mean, we've just seen this any sort of little rise of attacks, and it's now like just, for anybody in business, it's a risk. You know, it doesn't matter if you're an SME, old age home, fish and chip shop, medium-sized business, or the very biggest businesses in the world. I mean, it's a reality of doing business now. I mean, would there have been something that you would have put in place back then that may have changed where we are today?
I mean, there's
sorry, kind of
there's like hypothetical questions, but certainly the things that come to mind for me, and mostly I suspect they're useless in any kind of practical way, but maybe there's kernels of truth in it. The one would be, I'd just say slow down.
Yeah.
Just slow down. Like, even now, when people ask me about AI and AI adoption, how do we secure AI? My answer is just slow down. You absolutely.
What's the rush?
What's the rush? You absolutely need to be on this train right now.
Yeah.
And I ask clients, you know, what was your strategy for the adoption of Gen AI to transform your business 2 years ago? And they go, well, there wasn't one because there was no Gen AI. Yeah. So, and my answer is then you're just responding to an outside influence. Like, play the game at your own speed. Give yourself time. I think that would certainly be the one. The second would be what you've touched on. Like, let's build security in rather than art. You know, the first business I was in, we sold firewalls, big complicated piece of text on its own hardware, different operating system and a web front end. Where its attack surface was massive attack surface growth. And what we'd be doing, we're putting it in front of a router, which could fundamentally do all of those things. You know, just I don't feel like we needed that extra step. So I think that would have been the simple one. And then I would have said we need to work on the quantification of risk reduction. in a meaningful way. So 25 years later, you still cannot spend R1 million, 10 million rand on security, put it in your business, and then say, this is how much security our borders.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so we've been in this like fuzz of like, we need more, but we don't know how much more, and we can't quantify what kind of risk reduction. What I would say, let's solve that problem like, right at the beginning, and then in parallel with that, if you could do that, I'd say let's impose the costs in the right place. So I'll give you an example of that. When in the early 2000s, when businesses started going digital, right?
Yeah.
So now there's the internet and this incredible opportunity to effectively, for the business, shift cost out to the public. Now you don't need large ecosystems, you don't need brick and mortar anymore. You don't need people sitting at desks. Like, no, we're going to put it on the internet, and they're going to self-service. It's going to be wonderful. And that cost saving of the old brick and mortar business effectively becomes security debt for the consumer. Because now it's the consumer whose password is being stolen, whose funds are being filtered out, and you can't trust the technology anymore, and has to carry this enormous burden of anxiety about so it's effectively what the businesses save in brick and mortar costs, I think became security debt for the consumer. And for years and years and years, we've been in that struggle where the provider says, well, no, that's not on me. If you fall victim to a BEC scam, then that's you. You got the wrong email.
Yeah.
And that allocation of cost of the security debt to the right place, to the provider of a service, or maybe more fundamentally to the provider of a technology platform, that I think we didn't get right, and we're sitting with that legacy now 20 years.
No, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Just on that question of trust, I got a call from my bank the other day, the fraud department of my bank, and it was a scam. And it got me thinking that, we now are almost at the very end of trust, because now you cannot trust anything. You can't trust, especially if you get a phone call. Your bank should never have to phone you. But also, it's, you cannot trust anything. You can't trust anyone from the government. Trust me, I'm from the government. Trust me, I'm from the police. Trust me, I'm a family member. Trust me, I'm a colleague. Trust me, I'm your CFO or my bank's fraud department. So, what do you think about it? Where have we got to? Why have we? What's the way forward from this?
I could speak about this all day. So first, I think you're absolutely right. We're living in a kind of post-trust world, and I think that has enormous implications. For the individual, for that sense of anxiety that you feel daily, but knowing also that everyone else is feeling that sense of anxiety at 10x, right? Because they don't understand. My mother-in-law won't engage with anything on the internet without phone. She is in total state of anxiety. But that spreads right to what do we believe in on social media, and what do we believe to be fundamentally true about the world. And you see the impact that that's had on societies like in the States, right? Whether trust their election processes, whether their elected leaders were legitimately elected, and it's like who's telling the truth? Who's telling the truth about the vaccines? Who's telling the truth about nutrition? Nobody's and it's this absolute just creates this collapse, and it's a very predictable collapse of a cohesive society where people don't trust each other. And today, that means also trusting the platforms that we live our lives. So we like to talk about trust as being infrastructure. If you think about the analogy I use, if you think about building a transport network like a road system, then you have to start by saying, I trust that the engineers who designed this knew what they were doing, and this was properly signed off and validated. I have to trust that the cement was properly mixed to grade. I have to trust that it was laid down. Then I need to trust the other drivers that they're going to stay on the road. I need to trust the police. It's like trust the whole way up. And because we trust, we're prepared to fly over a bypass at 160 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
But the minute you don't trust, that whole thing collapses. And the same is true for our relationship with technology and technology systems. And then all the transactions that those technology systems facilitate, and the loss of trust is contagious. The minute that seed is planted in your head that you can't trust this, then it starts eroding and spreading from you to others. I think it's catastrophic. If I may just say one more, sure. If you go back to like the very old conceptualization of security being about being able to assert confidentiality, availability, integrity. And integrity is really about saying, I know that this is what it purports to be, and it comes from where it purports to come from, and it's unchanged, right? So when trust is collapsed, I think that's a fundamental failure of security.
I mean, and part of it I think would be the identity, being able to prove who you are at any one time. And I think that's quite, I don't know how that is going to play out. Like there's that new thing, World, where it's like this orb that reads your iris. It's like an iris scanning, home iris scanner, which does seem to be, but it's a proprietary thing. But that I suppose identity is part of it.
Identification is part of it. I think that's a fundamental tenet. But that needs to span across the layers and layers of systems and technologies, and it surfaces all kinds of very complex, almost philosophical questions.
Yeah.
Like what is the relationship between your physical identity and other identities that you might want to hold in the world?
Yeah.
Right? Is there only one you, only one version of you?
Yeah.
Do you want to drag that version of you everywhere you go, or do you want to surface other versions of you? But like not having solved that problem, and frankly, not even having a conceptualization of how to solve that problem is a failure of security dying. We should be able to shape it.
Thanks very much, Charl. Appreciate it for chatting.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
C'est ça.